This healing channel is intended for anyone who feels that they are looking for a better life in this time of great change. There's much that we do not understand about our way of being in the world and how to live the best life that we are able to, especially given the traumas and tragedies, complexities, and challenges of modern living. The truth is that we have drifted very far from where we ought to be and where we can be and who we can become. And now is the time for us to shift gears and to move into our most authentic, beautiful, godlike self. And by godlike, what I mean is that we are all part of the universe, of source, of creation, of God, however you'd like to frame it. And our minds keep us trapped in this belief that we're separate and alone, and that we often believe that we are small and incapable of creating great change or great beauty, when in fact, there's nothing that's farther from the truth. Because when we shed our self-limiting beliefs, then we can truly become the ones that we are meant to be. This channel is here to help us all realize who we really are and what is possible. And there is not a time in history that is more important for us to become the ones that we have incarnated on earth in order to become, because our souls have an intention when we're born into earth. And for every being that's here on earth now, our intention was to be part of this great change, this great evolution of earth and humanity. We're all here to play some role, and it's a great big beautiful spectrum of roles, ranging from being on the front end of the change on one hand, and being on the tail end and giving an anchor to the old so that the new can emerge in a way that's safe and strategic. So even the people that seem like they're resisting the change, they are here to play a purpose, because we're not meant to slingshot into the future. We're meant to do so through an evolutionary process that is, albeit quite rapidly, in the sense of how evolutions generally occur. So there should be no judgment of oneself or each other about where they are on the spectrum of evolution and change, because every soul is playing the role that they are meant to play. Sometimes we feel lost and confused about what we should be doing, and just know that that's part of the process. We are meant to question, we're meant to wonder, because the new you is nothing like the old you of days or weeks ago. So we have to constantly be reevaluating where we are. And that's not to say that we should be in a constant state of rumination and worry. But when you are wondering, that is also natural. And it's signaling the fact that you have changed since you last asked yourself that question. It's like a child who has a growth spurt and all of a sudden they're eating out the whole refrigerator and they're bumping into things. It's because their bodies and their limbs are in different places than they were just a day or a week before that. Same is true with our consciousness, that we can go through growth spurts and then all of a sudden life feels unfamiliar to us. So rather than thinking that something's wrong, rest assured that all is right and you are exactly on your evolutionary path. And if you feel like you're different from other people around you, don't worry about that either. Everyone is on their own path, and growth and change and evolution is going to look different for each person. One person's growth might seem like your old news, and vice versa. Or somebody else's changes could be completely alien and foreign to you and that you can't relate to it, and vice versa. And that's okay. Don't judge. Don't judge yourself. Don't judge others. Everyone is just trying to find their way. And the more that we accept that that's how it is, the more we can become our biggest and most beautiful selves. Life is hard. It always has been hard. And believing that it should be otherwise is fantasy. It's denial of the way of creation and the world. If you think about nature, the law of the jungle is eat or be eaten. And while it's not quite rigid and stark for humans, the same is somewhat true. Even though you're not likely to get eaten, there are parts of your life that might feel like the law of the jungle, that you either eat somebody or something or they will eat you. The problem with that is you're already nourished and fed and safe for the most part. So this is not true for everyone in the world. And when we start to construct beliefs about competition and survival in things that don't matter, that's where we start to create challenges for ourselves and distortions in our lives that don't need to be there. So this is your opportunity right now to heal yourself and to realize the parts of your life where you're living by the law of the jungle when you could be living by the law of collaboration and harmony. We sometimes cannot recognize these aspects of our lives because of what is happening inside of us. And if we're not aware of what's happening inside of us, it'll control our behavior and beliefs and our feelings and cause us to act in the way of the jungle instead of in peace and harmony. All of this happens at a subconscious level in most cases. And so if we don't attend to that subconscious terrain, then it will rule our lives without our knowledge and even without our consent. Because though there might be times where you need to behave that way, most of the time we want peace and harmony. This is where the inner work is important. And it's often a place where pharmaceuticals and other sacred medicines and healing practices don't necessarily penetrate. Because even though healing practices can lighten the load, unless we confront those beliefs and fears that cause us to act within the law of the jungle, then we will be forever living out those habits, beliefs, and practices and creating that in our lives. So it's not really an either or, it's a both and, that healing practices and exploring the subterranean levels of our consciousness to elicit our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors that originate down deep is what will give us the smoothest and most accelerated path towards healing and creating the life in the world that we long for. We have a tendency to say we want one thing but do another, which is why we often feel stuck, living the same life, same scenario over and over again, kind of like Groundhog's Day. And if you remember from the movie, Bill Murray has to have some awakening and realization of some of his beliefs and practices and habits before he's able to change his life. This is true for all of us. It's a very insightful movie, playing out as a comedy. And when we realize that the quality of our interior world determines the quality of our exterior world, is when we realize where our true power is. Because if we're not aware of our inner world, then we're mindlessly creating it in our outer world and feeling like a victim. Or maybe we're blaming other people, when in fact, there's only one person in charge of your life, and that is you. In our next episode of Finding You, we will discuss how to bring this self-awareness into your life to bring healing. Thank you for listening.